The Jesuits, formerly known as the Society of Jesus, have a history as one of the most influential and controversial orders in the Catholic Church. Founded in 1540 by Saint Ignatius of Loyola, a Basque soldier who underwent a profound spiritual conversion, the Jesuits were established during a time of great turmoil in Christendom. The Protestant Reformation had already begun to reshape religious, political, and social structures across Europe, leading to significant conflicts between Protestant and Catholic factions. In response, the Catholic Counter-Reformation emerged, and the Jesuits were at its forefront, working to reform the Church from within and counter the spread of Protestantism through education, missions, and diplomacy. Ignatius of Loyola, born in 1491, was a soldier before his conversion. After being severely wounded in battle, Ignatius experienced a deep religious awakening during his convalescence. He dedicated himself to a life of spirituality, penance, and study, eventually writing the Spiritual Exercises, a manual of meditations and prayers that became a core aspect of Jesuit spiritual practice. In 1534, Ignatius and 6 companions, including Francis Xavier, Peter Faber, and Diego Lainez, took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, with a special commitment to missionary work and service to the Pope. This marked the beginning of what would become the Society of Jesus. In 1540, Pope Paul III formally approved the order, recognizing its potential to renew the Church's mission and combat the spread of Protestantism. Unlike traditional monastic orders, the Jesuits were not bound to one place or a particular community. Instead, they were mobile, flexible, and dedicated to wherever the Church needed them most. Their motto, Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, for the greater glory of God, reflected their belief in doing everything in service of God, whether through education, missionary work, or service to the poor. The Jesuits quickly became known for their role in education. They established schools, colleges, and universities across Europe and later throughout the world, focusing on rigorous intellectual formation and moral development. Unlike many religious orders, they did not limit their educational work to clergy, but also provided education to lay people, including the elite and the poor alike. Jesuit schools emphasized a broad curriculum, which included not only theology, but also the sciences, philosophy, literature, and languages. One of the most influential aspects of Jesuit education was their use of Ratio Studiorum, a structured educational framework that combined religious instruction with classical and liberal education. This approach helped Jesuit institutions become among the finest in Europe, producing some of the brightest minds of the time. Their educational influence persists today, with Jesuit schools, colleges, and universities spread across the globe, including prestigious institutions like Georgetown University and Boston College in the United States. However, the Jesuit mission went beyond education. They also became renowned for their evangelization efforts, especially in regions where Catholicism had little or no presence. From the Americas to Asia, Jesuit missionaries ventured into unknown territories, often immersing themselves in local cultures and learning indigenous languages to better communicate the message of Christianity. Perhaps the most famous of these missionaries was Saint Francis Xavier, who traveled extensively throughout Asia, particularly India, Japan, and the Moluccas, spreading the Catholic faith. While their educational and missionary work garnered praise, the Jesuits were often embroiled in controversy. Their close relationships with powerful political figures and monarchs led some to view them with suspicion. As skilled diplomats and advisors to kings, they often played a key role in shaping political affairs, which earned them both friends and enemies. Their reputation for intellectual rigor and influence over the ruling class led to the perception that they were involved in secretive and manipulative behavior, giving rise to numerous conspiracy theories over the centuries. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the Jesuits became increasingly entangled in political affairs, particularly in Europe. Their loyalty to the Pope sometimes placed them at odds with national interests, and they were accused of meddling in state matters. This tension reached a climax when several European monarchs, particularly in France, Portugal, and Spain, sought to curtail their influence. In 1773, under pressure from these monarchs, Pope Clement XIV issued a decree formally suppressing the Society of Jesus. The order was disbanded, its members dispersed, and its properties seized. The suppression of the Jesuits in 1773 was a devastating blow to the order, but it did not mark the end of their influence. Many Jesuits continued their work in secret or under different guises, particularly in Prussia and Russia, where the papal decree of suppression was not enforced. Over time, the growing need for their educational and missionary expertise led to calls for their restoration. In 1814, Pope Pius VII formally restored the Society of Jesus, recognizing their continued contributions to the Church and their potential in a rapidly changing world. Following their restoration, the Jesuits once again became a dominant force in global Catholicism, especially in education and missionary activities. Today, the Society of Jesus remains one of the largest and most influential religious orders in the world, with members often referred to as the Pope's soldiers. There are currently about 16,000 Jesuits worldwide, continuing their work in education, social justice, and pastoral care. While they remain rooted in their original mission of evangelization and education, modern Jesuits have expanded their focus to include issues of social justice, poverty, and human rights. In recent years, the Jesuits have been deeply involved in promoting liberation theology, particularly in Latin America. Liberation theology is a movement within Catholicism that emphasizes the Church's role in advocating for the poor and marginalized. Jesuits such as Oscar Romero, the martyred Archbishop of El Salvador, have become symbols of the Church's struggle for social justice. The election of Pope Francis in 2013 marked a historic moment for the Society of Jesus, as he became the first Jesuit pope. His emphasis on humility, social justice, and care for the marginalized reflects many of the core principles of the Jesuit order. Under his leadership, the Church has adopted a more open and pastoral approach, aligning closely with Jesuit ideals of serving the broader world, especially those in need. The Jesuits have had a profound and lasting impact on the world through their contributions to education, intellectual life, and global missions. They have educated some of the most influential figures in modern history, including world leaders, scientists, philosophers, and theologians. Their approach to education, which emphasizes critical thinking, moral reasoning, and service to others, continues to shape minds across the globe. However, their history is also marked by controversy. Their close involvement in political affairs and their reputation for secrecy have led to widespread suspicion, sometimes resulting in their expulsion from countries and accusations of conspiracy. Yet, despite these challenges, the Society of Jesus has endured for over 480 years, continually adapting to the needs of the Church and the world. In essence, the Jesuits remain true to their founding principles of finding God in all things and striving for excellence in service to humanity. Whether through education, social advocacy, or spiritual guidance, the Jesuits have consistently been a force for change, growth, and renewal within the Catholic Church and beyond.